There's a friend of mine here, and I absolutely cannot resist inviting him up onto stage for a second, because this man represents a direct line to all the things I used to absolutely love about music in my early teens. He worked with and played on records by some of the great names of the late 50s and early 60s before having big hits of his own. Joe Brown is here. And Joe, just come up to the stage for a second. I know I know I'm springing this on you.
I just said to somebody, what the last ladies were so wonderful. And I said, who's that old geezer up there talking to me?
No, come in and sit down.
Certainly.
Yeah. Oh, Joe, how are you then? Are you all right?
Old.
Yes.
Where do you want me to sit?
Just sit on the... Because then you've got...
That far away?
The benefit... Yeah, no, because
Okay.
we'll be able to hear each other. I
Oh,
think.
is your young lad here? Look.
Aye.
Okay, right, I'm here.
Yeah.
What a lovely show, Bob.
Oh, thanks, Joe.
I tell you, the people that have performed this afternoon are fantastic.
Yeah, more to come. I mean, it's really...
I know, it's great. I couldn't believe the last two young ladies, the harmonies were just...
Sibling harmonies. You can't
so
beat them, can you,
tight,
really?
you know.
I know.
And it's been absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
I've had such a good time.
Well, when I talk about Joe and me going back in my, sort of the history of my record collection, it's true because when people... Okay, so in the late 50s, early 60s, there was this weird thing going on with the unions, and they had this, what was called a sort of exchange thing with musicians from Britain and America, transatlantic. If two artists toured Britain from the States, then two equivalent artists had to go over and tour America from Britain. It's sort of the way that it worked.
Yeah, it was the unions thing.
It was the unions thing. So people would come over here. Some of the big American rock and roll stars would come over, but they weren't really allowed to bring with them their own musicians. So they'd work with UK musicians. And aged, 17, 18 years old, Joe was absolutely regarded as the kind of, I don't know, the Jimmy Page of his moment and the, whatever it is. But everybody wanted Joe to play with them. And some of the stories, Joe, of those early days when you were touring with Eddie Cochran and
Gene Vincent, Johnny Cash.
Yeah. There's a great picture of Joe at Joe's house with Gene Vincent, Billy Fury.
Oh, Bill, yeah.
Yeah, and so that was Joe. And those tours in the late 50s, early 60s.
But the thing was, in those days, just after the skiffle, there was only about half a dozen people playing electric guitars. Like there was Big Jim Sullivan, a bloke called Colin Green, and a few other guys and myself. And there was no one around to tell us we was doing it wrong.
Yes.
But we seemed to get away with it. But I remember my brief on the television show that I was lucky enough to get a spot on, which was the follow-up to a rock and roll show called Oh Boy, which was produced by Jack Good. And this was called Boy Meets Girls. And I couldn't read music. And I was in this orchestra with all these great musicians, mainly from the Ted East Orchestra in those days. You're probably too young to know that. But anyway, my brief was to get their solos on a record and learn their solo because I couldn't read music, And I could tell you stories. You haven't got time, have you? Johnny Cash was the one.
Yeah.
Because they sent this record over of his called How High's the Water, Mama? And the guitar part was really simple. It just went donk dink, donk dink, donk dink, just like that, all the way through. Donk dink, donk, and he's saying, How high's the water, Mama? Donk dink, donk dink, 4 foot high and rising. And then it went up a tone and went, donk dink, donk dink, donk dink, donk dink, how high's the water, Mama? 5 foot high. This bloody song went on for 15 foot. I got fed up with it, so we got to about 8 foot, And he went, donk, dink, and I went, donk, dink, donk, dink, and he stopped the show. Johnny Cash stopped the show. Hold it, he said. And he looked across to the orchestra and he said, Joe, there'll be no picking there. And I got the sack. On the spot, I was actually conducted out. The musical director still had his baton up. And he went, yee, out. And as I went out, the drummer went boom, boom. I thought, I'll get you, you bugger, you wait. And, you know, I mean, the first thing I did, I got fired. And I was sitting in the studio, I was almost in tears, and I was sitting on one of those rostrum things, and I was thinking, I hope someone from production would come in and I could beg them and say, please have a word with the musical director, and I promise I'll never do it again. Nobody came in, and after about 20 minutes, Johnny Cash came in. And he saw me sitting there, nearly in tears, and he came over and he said, what's the matter, Joe? I said to him, I've got the sack. He said, you got the sack. What are you going to put in the sack? I said, you don't understand, Johnny, I've been fired. Fired? Fired? What for? I said, I'll tell you what for. I said, I played that and you stopped the show and I got fired. And he said, well, now we'll just have to see about that. And he went and had a word with the director and I got my job back. See, nobody argued with Johnny Cash.
No, absolutely.
Too many mates on death row. Those were the days, Bob.
Honestly,
I know.
we could.
We lived through it all, son.
Yes. But Joe, just one final thought, because I mean, this could be the start of a conversation that could go on
for
the rest of the night. But just while you're on camera, I think if one took a sort of straw poll, like right now, of one of the magic moments that they would have seen on video, or if you were lucky enough to be there on the night at the Albert Hall at the Concert for George, when you rounded the concert off with that just so touching version of I'll See You in My Dreams.
Well, it's a lovely song.
It's just so beautiful.
I've been closing my show with it for years, and so Olivia, George's wife, said, would I close the show with it? And of course, I was, yeah, all right then. So there's all out there, McCartney's there and Ringo's thrashing away and all these great musicians are pounding, and they finish with a song called Wah Wah, which is real loud. Wah wah. And I'm stood on the side of the stage at the Albert Hall with a little wooden ukulele with no pickup in it. And I had to go out and do it. And it's just a lovely song. I'd love to take a lot of credit for it, but at the end of the day, it's just a beautiful old song.
Yeah.
You know, and I think anybody could have done it, really. But I just love George.
Yeah, basically. We all did. All those petals coming down, Joe. It was really...
Yeah, they got into my one, yes. You know.
Spitting about. Well, everybody, Joe Brown. I mean, just...
Thank you.
We'll have to go on tour together, Joe.
We certainly will. Now, do you want me off this way?
Yeah, you could. Well, I've got a little step there for me.
Where's that boy of yours
that's
with
easy.
the camera? That's all right.